All right. Morning, guys. Hit me.
Mark, I know it's hard to follow all of college basketball from afar, but how much did you know about Nate Oates and Alabama and especially this offense before you got here, and what have you seen the last day or two?
Yeah, I mean, what Nate's done at Alabama has been incredible, right? He is, I mean, clearly they had a all-time great season last year, and he's their program is in a great position, and he's playing a fun style of basketball, and really they're playing great basketball.
How difficult is it to
I thought it was a good answer. But then you're looking at me like, nah, did I miss a question? I must have missed a question. It was a pregnant pause. When I was in medical school, that was one of the things that was a big deal, is that when you're meeting with a patient, you had to just let enough time that they would move on to the next thing that they, the thing they really wanted to tell you that they hadn't told you yet.
That was longer than usual.
Yeah, it was good. They're really tough to prepare for. I mean, and listen, every team in this league is impossible to prepare for. Everyone's so good. Deb was just telling me we're playing, this is our third straight, essentially top 10 team at home for the first time ever. Ish. And so everyone's really good, and they pose different challenges. And Alabama right now is, of course, they've always been so potent, demanding that you guard space. Their pace is elite. They're I don't know if they're not, it changes every day almost, the metrics, but they're one of the fastest playing teams in the country. And when you break down their possession usage in the first six seconds and the second 6 seconds of the shot clock, after makes, that's actually when they're the most, they punish you. So it's one of those games where if you're not careful, you're going to make a big time play and all your guys will be celebrating and the cameras will be focused on your guy, and then they're going to come back to your guys and have the ball again because Alabama's already gone and scored, right? And so their transition offense is incredible. Their space incredible. They got the presumptive player of the year in the league. They in the last 5 games, they've been the #1 offensive rebounding team in the country, which is so great, isn't it? We just went to Mississippi State, that thing that had the #1 offensive rebounding team in the country for the season, and now we get the #1 offensive rebounding team in the last 5 games. So, they're a terrific team. Obviously, they're incredibly well coached. They're veteran guys, and it's going to be fun.
See any similarities between their offense and yours, and if there are, does that make it more difficult or easier to prepare for?
A little bit of both. Certainly their usage of the 3-point line is really heavy. I think they're number 3 in the country, actually, in 2-point field goal percentage, 2 or 3. They're really, really effective at the rim, and their volume from the 3-point line is intense, right? They haven't shot it great, but their volume is always scary. Like on the night when they're making shots, it's a long night for their opponent for sure. But really, for me, it's their pace and them on the offensive glass right now. It's just been remarkable. Their concerted effort on the glass has been really special.
Are there any surprises in the SEC so far in the last couple of weeks that you've noticed some teams that they're at the top that's
Well, I think, I don't know if anybody's surprised. It seems like everybody's ranked in the top 25, so it's just a matter of who happens to win that night. I think Ole Miss is, Ole Miss obviously had a huge win this week against Alabama, right? So that was a big win. Missouri is I love that coaching staff, and they had a really tough year last year, and so it's fun to see them infusing just a massive amount of life into the program right now. But I think everybody in the league is really good. I think nobody's surprised about that.
Mark, you kind of indicated that you thought Andrew's back issue would improve with time. He was obviously able to play, start, just like usual against Texas A&M. But kind of where is he with that? And do you still kind of, portend into the future that progress will be made and things will get back to 100% for him?
Yeah, we have next week we have a full week, and so we're kind of like scratching and clawing to stay alive right now, and then we'll be able to put 3 days together next week where he's. Hopefully we can make some progress next week. But right now he's kind of on no practice right now, and just hope that we can tape him together for the game. And that's kind of how we've been rolling the last 2 weeks. And so he's been fighting and battling and being really effective in the game and in the games. And you know, he's dying to play, and so we'll kind of piece it together.
Not too many players that could go, you know, without practice or being on that no practice schedule, yet come out and perform in games. That just kind of speak to his experience, his IQ, and just the kind of way he's, as a veteran guy, knows how to manage his body and such.
Well, I think there's a lot of players that would like to do that sometimes. But no, for sure. That's the beauty of having a vet, and especially a vet that's built like him, in the sense of he's always been so incredibly efficient. He's never been a turnover guy. He's always been a really high field goal percentage guy. He's a high Q guy. He knows his game. He knows where he's effective. He's gotten to know us really well, and so it's not ideal. Like, you know, he'd be the first to tell you this, man. It's hard to kind of find rhythm a little bit. When you know, you're just kind of piecing together a day here and a day there, but we do have some semblance of confidence that you know, that he's gonna improve. So we'll see where we go.
UK posted a video the other day of you and showing off your UK chessboard, and I know that well, two-part question there. Just one, have you played Game 7 against Colin Chandler? And
no, I'm ducking him. I'm telling you, I'm terrified, actually. You know, you know, Colin's good because he lets you kind of control the board, and then all of a sudden you think you got it, and then all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh, this went really, really bad, really, really fast. I don't like it at all. So I'm going to try and juice this thing and eventually do a pay-per-view, some type of NIL pay-per-view thing for Game 7. But I got to work on the marketing there. We'll figure that out.
What's the importance of doing non-basketball stuff with your players, and is that something you've always done throughout your coaching career?
I think it's really important because we've talked about this a lot. I'm not going to give you guys a great answer, but I think it's massively important. I think that I think it's more important that our players are doing non-basketball things with each other. I believe that for a team to become everything, to have all the synergy that you can have, and that, I'm using that word very specifically, like the definition of that word matters, to really like have the most impact of the synergy of guys together on a team, that comes from a place of love. Like, it does. I know that sounds soft, but it's real. Like, that is a real thing. And love is a two-part word. Love is something, it's an affection that you feel for someone, but it's also a verb. It's an active endeavor. It's both. It's a noun and a verb, and they're both real. And you kind of flip back and forth between the two. And you know, teams function at an elite level when you actually care enough about your teammate that you're not totally lost. Your thoughts aren't lost on yourself. That's a real thing. It's one of the beautiful. It's why I love team sports. It's why I love team organizations. It's why I love a staff. It's why I love looking at companies that actually function at a high level. It's why I love looking at families. Like, there's nowhere you see it better than in families. It's why I love watching my 4 girls, like, you know, my 4 girls interact with each other, because they get power from each other and they get strength from each other because you know, they'll yell and scream and fight and punch and claw, and heaven forbid, you know, Layla comes to visit and she goes home to Utah with Shay's shirt, and then it's like we're spend the next, you know, 3 weeks until she comes back, and everybody's mad at each other, right? But from all of that, you know, this active verb of love, and this real love, that's where all the synergy comes from, right? So I think you get that from spending time together, doing stupid things, knowing each other, caring enough to, like, not just sit in your room by yourself, but like, hey, I'm gonna actually extend myself, and so I'm a huge believer, and thankfully, because it's no fun to do this by yourself, right? And so I think those things really matter. That was a long answer, but I care about it. I really care about that. I think it's important in life.
Mark Lamont obviously took several hits in that game Tuesday. One, did he come out of it okay? And two, just the fact he kept getting up and was able to finish that game, what does it say about him, and what did it kind of do for the team morale?
He's a winner. He's a winner. I actually said that in staff yesterday as we were kind of finishing up the autopsy. And I'm like, man, this guy's a winner. And it was like, and we've said it 100,000 times, but it's starting to hit even more different, isn't it? Like, we've been saying it, but now we all get to feel it. We all get to experience it. We get to witness it, and we get to see it in real time at a bigger level, maybe than we've seen it from him before. And I mean, you know, he's fun to coach. And so he's going to keep battling and fighting, but it's probably not the end of him getting beat up a little bit. So,
Mark, going back to everybody in this league being really good, how challenging is it to not only face these really good teams game to game, but really different coaching styles? I know you've coached against some of these guys in the past, but how challenging is that? And then is it also fun for you as a guy who loves basketball?
yeah, it's so awesome. Like, it's so fun. We played 4 league games now. I mean, how fun is this, right? You think about, like, even the Georgia disaster, right? It was fun and learning, and it actually has made us a better team. Like, the Georgia disaster helped us prepare for Mississippi State and for Texas A&M and Florida as a first game. Those guys coming here undefeated, and that epic, like, you know, one of the most fun games we've ever got to play and witness together. And they're all so different, right? And so they test you in different ways, and they expose you in different ways, and you get to learn so much. And I love every second of it. Like, it's, you know, I've said this a bunch, but I feel bad for everybody that's not in the SEC. And there's other great leagues. Please don't take that wrong, but it's just like, we're battered and bruised right now, and we're barely, we're only 4 games in the league. And we're getting stretched like crazy right now, and we're only 4 games in the league. And we're learning so much about ourselves and about how to attack this game in different ways, and we're only 4 games in, and that's what you want. I mean, it's pretty great.
Mark, going back to pace, there's kind of a thought out there that, Alabama's playing with this fast pace, as you mentioned, and so are you guys. And so there's a thought that that's the kind of game that you want to play. I'll hear it on the broadcast. You might not want to get into one of those physical, gritty, kind of ugly kind of games. I don't know, do you understand what I'm getting at? And
totally.
Is there any validity to that? Or, I mean, you proved you can win one of those ugly games. You've done it a couple times, but you may prefer, kind of the nice, fast, pretty game where you're scoring a lot of points and not ugly in the 70s. Is there any sense for that?
There's a lot of beauty in every style of play, right? So we did an edit. So we were off. We were off yesterday. We're Wednesday, guys. I'm the worst. Every day is the same, right? So I was like, was it Sunday yesterday, or was it? So we were off yesterday, and we did our autopsy this morning from the game, and we did a 10-minute rebounding video. And it was awesome. It was so cool. And it was fun, and it was inspiring, and it was like in the trenches, and it was like a fist fight. And watching it rehashed, was it just as fun as watching a 5-pass, no dribble transition possession that ends up in a ball fake fly by 3, right? And so, yes, I love it all. It's pretty great. I think our team is finding some real satisfaction. I think more than anything, we're inspired by growth. As human beings, I think we're inspired by growth. I think growth is joy, actually, and it's pride, and it's all those things. And so for our guys to see what we look like on film 2 weeks ago on the glass and see how they've changed the 3 levels of it. They've changed the skill of how they do it. They've changed the IQ, and they've changed the focus. To see that in living color, I think our guys left this morning being like, this is super cool. It was fun. I was walking out of the gym late after the game, and Amari had just finished getting treatment and doing all this stuff. And I was just like, that was fun, wasn't it? He's like, man, I'm learning how to block out right now, and it's awesome. He had a big smile across his face. He's like, I'm learning how to do this. And you think about, he's been one of the elite rebounders in the country in his whole tenure, but he's going to another level, And so I love it. I love it all, man. This game's beautiful in so many different forms and variations.
It's like the Florida game. I mean, obviously that's a physical game too, but you guys are both running up. You both get 100 points. You guys haven't had that in the other 3 league games, so that's not going to happen as much. And then you think, okay, well, 2 teams don't want to go fast. This Saturday, maybe it's going to be a shootout. You guys now will be able to both get 100. So does that kind of, do you have any idea of what kind of game that's going to be before, or do you just kind of get into it like Georgia and it's like, oh man, like this is going to be?
Well, sometimes stylistically, it's going to give you an idea. Like we would guess that this. You knew that playing against Texas A&M with their changing defenses and the full-time three-quarter court press, that it was going to be a mess. And when you're playing Georgia, they're going to pick up even after misses, right? They're going to pick up after misses, and so it's going to be kind of what it is. Now you're hoping to find ways to increase the pace of the game for sure. Like we always want to keep the pace faster. We want to keep the space on the floor, and we want to keep the pace as fast as we can. So you would think Alabama coming here, they're certainly not trying to slow it down. Those guys trying to go faster. So this might be a breakneck game where it's just like, down and back until who falls over dead first, right? Which is super fun too. So I think going into games you have an idea, but every game takes on a character of its own.
Mark, I'm curious about that autopsy word you just talked about and the process of that. What goes into that with you and the coaching staff every couple of days after a game?
Yeah, so it's pretty extensive. We have our own formatted report that Matt Santoro puts together. We've kind of over the years we've developed all the things that we really care about. So we'll get that report, we'll get an HDR report, we'll get box score, we'll get the whole thing, and then we'll each individually break down film, and then we'll do it together as a staff, and then we do it together as a team. And so the first thing we look at is what did we do well. And we've talked about this a lot all together, but if you find, cherry pick the stuff you did well. If you want to get better at something, find yourself doing it well and focus on it and show it over and over and over again. Like, that's really true. It's a way different than I've ever experienced approaching the game. As coaches, we're so good at, we watch 10 minutes of film and we find the 17 mistakes and it feels like a victory. That's actually, that's not the way we do this. We work really hard. Because the things that are mistakes are glaring. They just shout at you. It's like everything's fine and you see the mistake. But I think the real skill in coaching is finding guys doing it great. And sometimes as a coach, you gloss over that stuff because there was nothing wrong. There's nothing to fix, and we're fixers. It's what we do. We go fix the problems. But so the first thing we do in the autopsy is like, what are we doing well? What did we do great? What part of the game plan do we execute well? Where have we really grown? Where can we show our guys something we didn't do well before, but we're doing it great now? What are the things that our guys didn't even realize that they did well, that we did really well? And so we'll spend a lot of time on that, and we'll spend very minimal time, certainly on video, on the things that we're doing wrong, but we'll take that in as a staff and really digest that as staff. Sometimes we'll see something we really struggle with, which we did. We struggled in a couple areas in the last couple games. And so what we do is we actually go back and we'll grab film of us doing it really well, and we'll talk about where we're getting ourselves in trouble, and then we'll show them a bunch of clips of us doing it correctly, right? And so autopsy is all about that. And the biggest part of autopsy is like, where are we trying to grow directionally over the next few weeks? Like, what are our long-term goals? Like, how is this new data set? How has it changed where we're trying to head? What is it telling us about our team? What's it telling us about our rotation? What's it telling us about guys we have on the floor together? What's it telling us about substitution patterns? Kind of the whole deal. It's super fun. It's like a puzzle.
Autopsy, usually it means someone's died or something.
Yeah, so it's really important. So we always think about this like win or loss, that's dead and buried. Like, that's done. Like, we're going to take all the data, we're going to take all the information, we're going to take it, but we're moving on. We're flipping a page, right? And so, and we're, I think it's two-part. I think one part is like, we're going to dig deep. Like, we're going to, I don't want to get too tasteless, right? Everyone's going to lunch after this, so so we're digging really deep. We're trying to uncover everything we have, and then it's dead and buried, and we got to move on to the next thing. Is in this league, that's important. Sometimes the wins are harder to get over than the losses, so we got to turn the page, bury it, and let's go.
How do you wonder if it's rising from the dead then? in some of your ball games, you're like, fellas, we've talked about this for 6 weeks now.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of things we've talked about for 6 weeks that we haven't made progress on. Now, we have a lot of things that we talk about every single day where we're making progress and we want to make more progress. There's a lot of those. But one of the blessings of this team, I'm telling you, like, it's a gift to coach this team. I'm so lucky that I get to coach this team because we don't have a lot of things that there's not a lot of times we're pointing the guys in a direction. Sometimes we don't see progress in a day, but over the last week or 2 weeks or month, there's not things where we're like, I've said this 1,000 times or we've watched this 1,000 times and we're not making progress. We have an unbelievable studious locker room. Like, our guys pay attention and they're focused on growing. It's super cool, man. It's really fun to coach.
How rewarding is it for you as a coach to have veterans on your team, but also the learners?
Yeah.
I mean, how important is that?
Yeah, it's important. And you guys, I've talked to you about this too, but this idea of humility is so important, right? It's I will give you the same speech, but this is like DNA for our team. A lot of times we mistake, we think that somehow confidence and humility somehow are not, they're almost, not exactly opposite, but they almost are in contention with each other. They're not. Like, the most confident people are the most humble people. I really believe that. There's a big difference between arrogance and confidence, okay? Arrogant people are not humble. Arrogant people are stuck. They can't learn. They can't grow. They think they know everything, and they're just stuck. Because you think you know everything, you're not going to take any new data in. You're not going to actually be curious, right? But when you have really, really confident people that are really, really humble, and you throw in some curiosity, that's a growth mindset person. That's someone that's like, hey, I'm really good at this, and I know that I'm good enough at this to get better. I know I can get better, and the curiosity part seeps in there, and that's what we have a locker room of guys like that, man. We have guys that are confident enough to really, really be humble, and they got a whole load of curiosity, and they get better. And we're seeing it in real time with like big, like monstrous things like our work on the glass, right? And that's not done. Like, that's going to be a continuing progress, but we've made huge progress, and it's fun. It's fun to coach guys like that.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great one.